for coming. Okay. For our first coffee chat. And I'm thanking my friend Angie for being our first person. To tell you a little bit about Angie, known her for quite a while, but her background is she earned a degree from the University of Illinois in horticulture, and she has a master's of science in ag education from the Ohio State University. Angie taught horticulture at Southwest Illinois College, coordinated adult education classes for the Missouri Botanical Garden, and ran horticulture speaking business for several years before joining her husband's seventh generation orchard and retail operation. At Eckert's, Angie initially managed the greenhouse and landscape design entities. Currently, she serves as vice president of retail operations for Eckert's, located in Belleville, Illinois, where she oversees the specialty food store, garden center, as well as retail products at 4 seasonal locations. She is an avid promoter of local food and speaks regularly to visitors and groups. She has co-authored 3 cookbooks, which are good, with her sister-in-law, the Eckert's family spring, summer, and fall cookbooks. Angie has formed and served on educational committees for the Illinois Farm Bureau and members board for the Missouri Botanical Garden. She is a past president of the University of Illinois College of Agriculture, Consumer and Economic Sciences Alumni Board. Angie recently served on the University of Illinois Alumni Association's Board of Directors and is active in the St. Louis chapter of, Angie, you'll have to say that.
La Dame's Escape.
She's also a passionate court-appointed special advocate, a CASA worker for several children in the foster care system in St. Clair County. In her free time, Angie loves to cook and garden at home on her farm where she lives with her husband, Chris, and her 2 children and a golden retriever. Angie believes the best family memories are made around the dinner table with good food and company. So thank you, Angie, for taking some time out of your super busy schedule to be with us today. And the floor is open for you. Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you, Jill, for sharing a little bit of my background. That was making me feel a little bit better about myself, because I have 2 teenagers who can make you feel really bad about yourself on a daily basis. So anyway, but yeah, so my main role revolves around retail, and it basically means anything's possible on any day. So we just kind of be prepared for whatever comes our way. So I thought I'd share a little bit about our company in general. We're, as Jill mentioned, a 7th generation. Well, we're going to have to start saying 8th generation, because we just had a niece and nephew come back into the business full time. Jack is managing on our farm, and my niece Katie is helping me in retail. She just stepped out for a few months to have her first baby. So we now have the 9th generation born, and hopefully in the works at some point to help out on the farm, as all the kids have done at part-time jobs and things like that, as you would imagine. Our company is kind of interesting in that because we're not just one family, we have basically 2 companies. There is a company that holds all the land entities, and then there's a company that holds the actual operations. So all of the land, people that own the land stock, they inherit that through being passed down through generations. And thankfully, my children are adopted, but the family wrote that into the bylaws, no problem. So my children will have the same rights to inheriting land stock as it's passed down through the generations. And then the operations companies, that's owned by people who are currently working in the business. And there are a couple of non-family members that own some shares of stock. So we really operate as two companies, but they're very tied together in terms of assets. And fortunately, at this time, all of the family members that are not working in the business that do own shares of the land company are very invested in the mission of Eckert's. And that has been a blessing for us, that we haven't had to worry about anyone saying, oh, they don't want to do this. They don't want to move forward with the mission of the company. So we've been very lucky over the years with all of that. Our team is a big team. We have probably, I'm thinking 8 full-time family members in the business currently and 12 that help seasonally. But altogether, we have about 500 employees at Eckert's. 60 of those are on the H-2A program that come from Mexico. There are currently 15 guys stuck on a bus in Texas with this crazy weather. So we're hoping those guys get out of the ice storm and get up here onto the farm to start pruning fruit trees, which is the next task at hand. We're always doing something out in the orchard. So our first round, hopefully in a few days, will show up, and then we get about 30 more guys in March and another round in June to help with the packing house, packing apples and peaches for our stores and for wholesale, which we sell to. So that's a little bit about our team. We're very committed to agriculture, as you would expect, and very engaged in a lot of efforts. The one I'm most proud of is the MAIA, which is a group of farms that have formed a coalition to research apples that grow well in the Midwest. And if anybody out there had the Evercrisp apple, that is a result of the MAIA research in trying to find apples that are growing well here in our region. All of the research on apples is typically done for New York State, Washington State, where the major growers exist. So these farms kind of came together to try to figure out how can we find good apples for our growing region. So that's a little bit about kind of the background of us in terms of what we grow. Variety of fruits and vegetables, and we farm about 600 acres that are related to fruits and vegetables. We also have a lot of ground and parking lots and buildings and things like that. So not every inch, of course, is farmed. We have our main farm in Belleville, as Jill mentioned. That's where I spend most of my time, but then we open usually a little pop-up produce stand in St. Louis for a few months. And then we open our Grafton farm, which is about an hour away from Belleville. We have another farm in Millstadt that's open just for the fall season. And then our most recent addition to the Eckert farm family is our Kentucky location just outside of Lexington in beautiful Woodford County, which we just stepped foot on the farm and fell in love. I'm not sure we thought it all through, but we were really excited to bring that piece of property on board. So all those locations kind of a little bit different personality and different areas of specialty that we kind of highlight and focus individually through some marketing. So that's a little bit about our background. The topic today that Jill asked me to talk about was changes in agritourism. And I think just like everything through COVID and the last 10 years, there's just been so much change with social media and just, I don't know, I feel like the rug just really got lifted and shook and everything got rearranged, and agritourism is not immune to that. So I'm sure a lot of you are seeing this. If you're selling direct to the customer, you're probably seeing a lot of these things as well, or in the farms in your area that you visit. The first one is what I call Instagram versus Insta-buy. And Instagram has become the biggest thing that people want to represent their lifestyle on. They want to show that they're a certain kind of person. And so that is all very heavily focused around photos and activities. And so we found about 6 or 8 years ago that people stopped buying as much fruit. Like, we're not putting up, canning fruit, freezing fruit like our grandparents did. So the amount of product that they're buying started going down, but they still wanted to go out to the orchard and take these pictures of what they were doing and show that on their Instagram page. So we kind of found that we had to go to some kind of ticketing system, because we were taking all these people out to the pumpkin patch. They're arranging all these pumpkins in the field for this perfect picture, and then they're not buying it. So strange. But so we went probably 6 years ago to a ticketing system where we do charge what we call a field admission. And it is a ticket fee that you pay per person 2 and up to go to the field or orchard And we do use dynamic pricing, meaning that weekdays are cheaper than weekends. And we might have, the October weekends were a little bit more expensive than September weekends, just to kind of help drive people to the months and the days that might be less busy if they are more conscious of the cost. So that has been a change, and people get upset about it. And it's hard sometimes, but I feel like I wouldn't be here if we didn't have field admission, because now admissions are higher than the crops, the revenue from the crops that we grow in the pick your own field. So, something that I think a lot of farms in our industry are going to, and has been good for us. So that's definitely another change. I also think there's been a huge emphasis on, special events and unique events on the farm. It seems like people want something unique to talk about, and it takes something unique to capture people's attention. So we've done all sorts of things. Most recently, the events that have been really fun and popular are sunset wagon rides to go out into the field and take photos. We have built a new facility called the Cider Shed, and we're serving hard cider among other drinks in there. And so the guests will come for an evening, get a glass of hard cider, hop on the wagon, go out at sunset and get a photo. So these kinds of unique events we're finding are really drawing people's attention, and it's hard to get people's attention these days because they have so many emails, so much going on. And I feel like this has been an effective way for us to penetrate the market. We also work with a PR firm. We used to, for years, hire an advertising firm, and those people would help us get into the media space and run commercials and, come up with the ad campaign for the billboards and all that kind of stuff. Well, we have switched to this PR firm, and they really work on unique angles to get you into the media. And the thing that's really awesome about that is you're now the content of the newscast. You're the content of the radio conversation, instead of being the commercial that everyone can fast forward or tone out. You want to be part of the content because that's what people are listening to. So we've been really, really pleased with the PR firm that we use, and they challenge us to come up with exciting things. They kind of give us more than we can even execute, which is great. And a lot of the ideas are coming from them. And they're also very good at what I call cause marketing. They will tie in some kind of kickback to an organization or a need in our community and promote that. And those things tend to get picked up as well. So that has been an effective way and a big change in our industry to really focus more on that kind of stuff. So those are kind of the big things that have changed. I think just another overarching thing that is probably influencing you all in your businesses as well is labor. And I think the labor market, as we all know, has changed a lot since COVID. It was so strange Monday to have a snow day and feel like, it was no big deal. Like the kids can still log on their computers and the people can still work from home if they're, not necessarily in our industry, but in a lot of industries, it's like that used to be a big deal. Like, wow, everybody has the day off. Well, now not everybody has the day off on a snow day. They're still checking in and doing work. So, many things have changed in the labor market, but for us, it mostly means we're adding more H2A workers because most people do not want to do the labor that's involved with harvesting the crops. And we are paying people a lot more. I mean, some of these starting wages, I still just gasp when I read them, but you have to, in our market, pay more than minimum wage. We look at Target and other places because that's who's, retail is kind of competing for a variety of different positions. So we look regularly at what those places are paying. And we're more flexible with our team. It used to be we didn't hire anybody who couldn't work a weekend. Well, now you wouldn't have anybody on your team if you required them to work every weekend. So it's definitely changing the workforce, and it's taking longer to find good people to fill positions. And I would say 7 out of 10 might accept, and only 3 are going to show up the first day. So you just don't have the same hiring output when you hire someone. I mean, I tell everyone, let's not celebrate until they show up on that day, because we really do not know. People can change their mind at any moment. So anyway, those are kind of the things I'm seeing and experiencing in terms of products. People are still very excited about local. So we try to, promote that in all of our stores. And the pricing has been crazy. I mean, whoever thought we'd pay $9 for a dozen eggs? But things are still tumultuous, but I feel like in general, they're settling down a little bit more in the supply chain, and the cost, the cost changes are not as volatile as they were a couple of years ago. So anyway, so I've rattled on, but I see there was a question, and I would be happy to answer other questions or speak to any topic that you all are interested in. So let's go for it.
Angie, you have one question in the chat.
Okay.
Does the unused, unpicked produce get harvested eventually, end up in manufacturer or wholesale hands for food production sales?
So a couple things about excess. So we try never to walk away from an orchard or a crop. Things that we might do would be harvested ourselves, and we work with Operation Food Search, which is in St. Louis. Operation Food Search supplies food pantries throughout the community. We work with them because they are big enough to handle large volumes. Anything in our immediate area cannot handle large volumes. So if they realize, oh my gosh, we've got a pallet of cucumbers, Operation Food Search can take that and distribute it throughout the community. So we'll either pick it, or sometimes we work with some organizations that will send out a gleaning team that will go through the orchard and pick apples, and then that product will ultimately go to Operation Food Search. So I think that's what the question was about, but that's kind of how we handle it.
I was the one that asked that. So hello.
Oh, okay.
Does any of the fruit ever get produced into frozen apple or peach pies that we see in you don't go that direction with it? It's more of a donation of the excess.
Right. So people ask a lot if the products in the store are made with our actual fruit, and they are not, most likely, because we want the guests to be able to pick the fruit off the tree. So if we would go into producing all the apples that go into the applesauce or the pies, there wouldn't be enough fruit on the trees remaining. So we work with a variety of vendors that make products to our recipe. Some of them are completely proprietary, where it is actually verbatim our recipe, and others are products that they're making that we deem delicious and worthy of the Eckert label. So that's kind of how we're handling that, but we can't guarantee that every pie has a slice of an Eckert's apple in it.
Cool. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think Heather, did you have a question?
I do. First, hi, Angie. It's great to see you.
Hi.
Hey. Lots of questions, but I'd like to start back on the business side. At what point did you decide to create the land holding company and the operations holding company? And do you have any need for something like a trucking company in what you do?
So to answer your question about the land and when it started, I mean, a long time ago. I think it was when Alvin involved the 3 brothers. So I'm guessing it was sometime in the 40s, but I'm not 100% sure, but it's been there in place a very long time. And it's been very effective because like I said, the family relations have remained stable, and communication is strong between the families. And we worry about that segmenting. So we do have conversations about, we have bylaws stating what would happen if someone wants to sell their shares and they can't sell it to a non-family member, et cetera. But we do also bring back the family. We try to bring them back every couple of years for a family reunion on the farm, and just make sure that the younger kids understand what the business is, and hopefully value it. We also welcome any of them to come and live with us for the summer and work on the farm and that kind of thing. So several of the cousins that live out of town have taken us up on that over the years. So anyway, that's a little bit about that. Trucking company, gosh, yeah. The main trucking that we do is between our own locations and to Schnucks and Whole Foods in the summer when we're selling them peaches. So I've never really thought about that. It would be a good dinner conversation with my husband about a trucking company. So maybe the 8th generation will come up with that plan for the company.
I just think with our farm, even though we're not doing the produce piece, it just seems that from a liability and a protection standpoint, and as we have more people with CDLs, it just almost makes sense to maybe look at it and keep it in a separate pod. But it's also a lot more record keeping.
Yes.
I have a ton of questions, but I'm looking for other hands up because I wanted to ask you about like job descriptions and just the think of it as a next level experience from we all farm together as a family to now we're involving these other people. How do you be clear about expectations, and how do you keep everybody, including your other family members and shareholders, true to the mission? You said they buy into the mission of Eckert Farms. And so how do you consciously make an effort to do that?
I don't know, this is going to sound a little shallow, I guess, but we don't really do that. It's like everybody just, because these, like my nephew and niece who are working full-time grew up working part-time in the business, they know what it is. It's not a surprise. So I feel like there's just unity on the front of the mission. But the communication that has to be scheduled. So we do have a management team that has 4 family members on it and 4 non-family members. That team meets every Wednesday and we go over financials. And we, each person reports about their area. So there's that. We also, before bringing a family member or a senior level manager into the company, we use a consultant firm that does some personality assessments on that person just to make sure they're a fit for the team. We're a really accepting and collaborative and helpful team. So if you come in and you're like, not my job to mop the bathroom when the toilet overflows, you're not going to fit with the team, because we're all just like, you got a flat tire at 1 a.m. I'll show up and help you. That's just our team. So we're really lucky in that sense that everybody has very strong family values and, Christian mindset of taking care of everyone, and it works. And I know that is not easy, but you almost take it for granted because it's not an everyday issue in a way. But meetings are important. There's also expectations set for returning to the business. If you're a family member, you do have to apply to a job that exists. You have to have the requirements for the job. So if it requires a degree and experience in a field, you can't skip over that just because you're family. And you do have to work outside of the business for at least 2 years before returning. So Jack and Katie both worked. Jack worked 2 years outside of the business. Katie worked 5. But it requires that you work somewhere else before returning in a full-time position. And you can't displace somebody. Like, you can't come back and say, well, I want to be marketing director, because we have a marketing director and she's awesome. So we do have kind of those things in place to make sure that the culture with our full-time staff is not threatening in any way, that they might lose their job due to a family person, returning. So I'm not sure if that answered everything, but
No, that was excellent. You just hit on several of the questions we're pondering, also having teenagers at home and one in college and
yeah.
other employees and yeah, so good.
Yeah, I think you said job descriptions too, and we do have job descriptions, just like anywhere else. It's pretty much the biggest part of the job description and other tasks as assigned or needed. Just make sure that's in every job description and you're good.
Yeah, I love that what you said about if the toilet's overflowing, the point is if it needs to be done, you do it. You just get it
Yeah.
done.
Just
And
get
it's
it
not
done.
about blame and it's not about putting it off or shoving it on somebody else. You just
Right.
get in and get it done. Yeah.
Absolutely. Any other questions, ladies? Penny, it's good to see you. I see Penny over there. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Angie, it's Ruth Hamilton here. I want to get back to the labor issue because this seems just to penetrate all levels of industry. How is it affecting agriculture in your view?
Are you talking about just the labor shortage and trying to find people?
Are you having trouble finding people?
Yes, I would say, we're finding that the main people looking for jobs in retail are young, and we sell alcohol in several of our locations. So we need to have people who are 18 to cashier. And then because we have a deli slicer and a bread slicer and things like that, the labor laws require that those people be 18. So it is difficult to find people to work all the positions in our main busy season, and because a lot of the workers tend to be 16, 17. So that's part of it. It's also just the shift when people can work from home and have a lot of flexibility and many jobs. It sort of makes retail look like a dinosaur because you have to show up that these hours you're scheduled. You're going to be on your feet. It's going to be weekends, so we're kind of competing with, I guess, perks that other jobs can provide. So I would say those jobs have been hard to fill. It's also been extremely difficult to hire people to work in the shop, to repair tractors. So like machinists, welders, that kind of stuff. And we're really struggling to compete with the current market. Is that a lot of companies are going into the high school trade classes, and they are finding the students that are excelling there, and they are offering them it's not internships, but apprenticeships, apprenticeships, and then they are paying their wage to go through the trade school. So for example, our high school, Belleville East, one of the guys that runs a shop class there, he has 3 of his students are seniors that are having apprenticeships, and then they're going to go on to a 2-year trade school, completely paid and guaranteed a job. So that's what we're competing against. And it's difficult because we either have to change our culture about that, but we don't pay for, family members to get a college degree. So now we'd be paying for a mechanic to get a trade degree to come back to work for us. So it's a bigger conversation revolving around how do we solve this. But the way we're currently solving it is we are able to get a skilled worker through the H-2A contract system that's coming. He's coming from Mexico and will help in our shop in the interim. But so that's been an issue. And then just finding, like the higher level. I've had a bakery assistant manager listed since September, I think.
Wow.
And I'm not even going to say it too firmly, but I think she might be starting next week. So it took me, what is that, 5 months to get a lead position filled. So it's just taking longer. And those skilled positions seem to be very challenging to fill.
Do you do anything with the cave? Is it the cave that's at Belleville, right, for the workforce development? Because I'm involved with some workforce development stuff in our region, just north of the coast.
Yeah, that is the program I was talking about, those students. And actually my son is going to take a class next year that would then allow him to be at the cave senior year. But yeah, I'm excited about that because I feel like people have, and right or wrong, people have been pushed into the college track, and it's not right for every student. It's not right for our community. We're not going to have anybody to fix the stuff we all break, or want to build. And so I'm excited to see that as a bigger emphasis of the education system here in our town. And I hope that, expands to other regions, because I think it's going to be really valuable for these kids that maybe don't feel like education is forever for them, that they want to get their hands on things, and they have an opportunity. I think some of these kids are getting paid $100,000 out of trade school to work as a machinist. I mean, it's like, wow. So there's definitely earning potential there, and good, an opportunity for a good living. And we're not really showing that to kids, at this point.
Angie, just wanted to thank you. I always am amazed that I learned something new. Your whole discussion about charging to go out to pick pumpkins rather than selling them because of the whole picture opportunity. That was something new and different that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
And I guess I would just add to your comments about your potential workers. And rather than looking at this as paying these students to go to trade school or whatever, I think the whole idea that we've got to come up with a way to eliminate these kids' college or educational debt. So look at it as a loan or some type of a stipend that you're going to provide to them as your future employees, so that it becomes a part of your employee package, rather than looking at it as, hey, we're not doing this for our own kids, other than the fact that you could do it for your own kids, do it as some type of a incentive for them to come back to your business. But as you say, then you have that opportunity then to do it for outsiders too. I think it's probably one of the ways that we as society are going to have to get away from this whole attitude of student debt.
Yeah.
Let's tempt these kids. Let's tie them into some good, solid work experience, maybe a 5-year commitment following that education, so that you hang on to them and get a return for your investment in them.
Yeah, I like that concept a lot. That makes more sense to me. So
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Do you manage your own H2A program, or do you have a firm that you contract with?
We contract through a firm. I'm not sure you can do it yourself. I don't know if you can, but we use an agency. We do a lot of internal meetings about the names of the people, like our crew. We have several crew bosses that are on the program. And so after each season, we sit down and write who we want back, who we don't. And they're pretty, they don't want the guys that go out and get drunk and don't listen. Like, they're also very family oriented. A lot of them are cousins, uncles of each other. So, they really want to do a good job because they want to be asked back. And so we've been fortunate over the years. We have not had, much trouble with the guys, because they tend to be really invested in being here. So.
With the nature of where you're located, and you talked about many of the acres have parking lots and pavement on them, and yet you've still got produce production going on. What kind of, call it, neighbor interface things have you bumped into, or how do you try to mitigate that, whether it's spray drift or anything? Just questions about what we do. Do you put signs up and say, hey, here's what we're doing? I mean, how do you handle that?
We've been pretty lucky. Something my husband and he learned that from previous generations has prioritized is being very upfront with neighbors before changing any kind of plantings that border the space. It's really important to have good neighbor relations, and often they're farmers or have, significant portions of ground. And so sometimes we end up renting their property to grow certain crops because we do have to rotate pumpkins, and apples and peaches may, they'll grow 20 to 25 years and then we pull those orchards out. So currently here at Belleville, we're renting some property adjacent to one side of us, for peaches. So then that landowner is more invested in what you're doing because they're getting paid for it. So that's been helpful. We also partner because we do not have big tractor equipment to till like the fields for pumpkins. So another neighbor here at Belleville is a family friend. I mean, we've been in this area for, over 100 years. So we've known our neighbors a long time. And so Kent Heber is our neighbor on one side of the farm, and he's who helps us till some of the larger plots of land before planting veggies or pumpkins. And we do also lease land from him depending on where the pumpkin crop is going. And then we border a cemetery. There's probably a lot of silly things I could say about that. Those guests don't really care so much. But the school adjacent to them, that is also a sensitive thing that we try to, manage. They're not right up against where our trees are, but, we are sensitive to when the kids are in school and what's going on outdoors. And then now we have a bike path through our property at Belleville. So we do amend our, maintenance based on that kind of stuff. As far as the other properties, again, been pretty fortunate that the adjoining neighbors support what we do. And I think it is mostly because Chris will go over there and talk to them and say, hey, we're going to be ripping out this orchard. It's right. It might change your view, but this is why we're doing it. And this is what's going in there. So in general, I think just communication and being upfront is really been important. And then Judy, Chris's mom, kind of started a neighborhood watch program out at the Millstop farm because we do have a month of evening business over there, and it can be kind of loud and there's a lot of cars on the road, and that kind of irritates people. But she got together this group and shared free passes to the farm and make sure that we're all looking out for each other over there. And so if they end up with a random, emu in their backyard, they probably know where it goes, but at least they have Judy's number to call and have it retrieved. So yeah, I just think communications, good relationships, and if you are open to the public, sharing some kind of, gift certificate or farm tickets so that they feel like you value the hassle that they may have to endure.
This is Jill. I just want to be mindful for Angie and our, the time that I asked her to commit for this morning. So I don't know if we could wrap it up here. Angie, are you open to, if anyone else has any questions, that they could email you?
Absolutely. That sounds great.
So it's been very interesting for me. I've known Angie for many years. And so this has been great we don't always talk shop. So I wanted to thank everybody for coming this morning, and thanks Angie for, giving us some time and talking about your business. It's just very interesting. And so.
Thank you. Well, it's good to see you all, and good to see friendly faces and girl power in agriculture. So
our next one is up on the board on our website. So if you'd like to join, we have, I think, a couple now, right, Gail? We have the next 2 registrations up for our meetings. So we'd like to see you back next month. So thank you, Angie, and everybody have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.